All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're taking a super close look at the inciting incident of Rosemary Border's The Lottery Winner. You know, every great mystery or drama absolutely hinges on its opening moments, right? Well, here we kick things off with what seems like a completely ordinary day for an elderly woman until it takes a sudden, shocking turn. By breaking down this initial crime scene, we're going to see exactly how this massive chain reaction gets set off. Suddenly, Emma heard something behind her. She didn't have time to look, because just then somebody ran up behind her, hit her on the head, and snatched her bag out of her hands. Wow. This terrifying transition from a peaceful street to a sudden violent mugging, it instantly hooks us into the harsh reality of 73-year-old Emma Carter's ordeal. It's abrupt, it's brutal, and it happens literally before she even has a chance to turn around. Moving on to our first section, a quiet Saturday afternoon. The contrast here between a normal, happy day and sudden trauma is just stark. At around 1 p.m., Emma is doing something purely joyful. She doesn't have a lot of money, but she's bought herself some cheap new shoes, and she is so pleased with them. By 1:30 p.m., she's walking home down a quiet street, probably just dreaming of a nice cup of tea. But then, at 2 p.m., violence strikes. She's hit from behind, her bag is snatched, and she takes a hard fall. Just half an hour later, kind neighbors are calling for help, and she's being rushed away in an ambulance. Emma's simple joy is shattered in mere moments. Next section, the bag snatcher strikes. It's easy to picture the visceral reality of the young mugger fleeing the scene, right? He's got that bag firmly tucked under his arm, but then there's Emma, elderly, vulnerable, and lying completely helpless on the ground. And the worst part, the attacker actually stands and looks down at her for a second before making his escape. It is impossible to view this as a victimless crime. It is deeply personal and honestly incredibly callous. Which brings us to our next section, the stolen lottery ticket. So let's weigh the physical value against the emotional value. The bag itself was old and cheap, and inside there was barely any money. To the mugger, this is a pretty pathetic haul. But think about the emotional value. Inside that bag was Emma's weekly lottery ticket. She buys one every single Saturday, printed with her specific personal numbers. So while the physical loot was practically worthless, the emotional value of that stolen ticket? To Emma, it's completely immeasurable.
Now consider this specific sequence of numbers: 5, 12, 23, 24, 38, 41. These are definitely not just random digits spit out by a machine at the local shop. No, these are the exact numbers Emma plays every single Saturday, without fail. She watches the television draw every week, just waiting to see these specific digits appear on screen. But why these numbers? What's the significance?
Well, let's break down the logic here because it shows exactly why this theft is so deeply personal. 5/12/23. That's because Emma was born on the 5th of December, 1923. Now think about the next set, 24 and 38. That's because she lived at number 24 Sandwich Road for exactly 38 years. And here's a fun fact from the broader text. That final number, 41, that represents her son Simon's age. These numbers literally represent her birth, her home, and her family. The mugger didn't just steal a random piece of paper. He stole a ticket deeply, deeply tied to Emma's very identity. Moving right along to our next section, profiling the suspect. Imagine you're looking over the police officer's notepad in that hospital room. Because the mugger actually stopped to look down at her for a second before running off, Emma got a remarkably clear look at him. She cataloged some very specific physical traits. He was a tall young man, had long, dirty brown hair and brown eyes. She even remembers his clothing perfectly: blue trousers and a really distinctive white shirt with a picture of a footballer on it. I mean, that is an incredible amount of detailed information for someone who just suffered a serious head injury. And get this, she doesn't stop at just describing him. Emma actually actively participates in the investigation right from her hospital bed. The policeman brings out a small bag filled with pictures of eyes, ears, hair, and mouths. And despite being in obvious pain, Emma carefully pieces together a composite sketch, checking the picture over really carefully. She is absolutely determined to catch the man who did this to her. But then, we hit this truly heartbreaking moment. After all that intense, focused police work, the adrenaline finally wears off. Quote, "Shoes!" Suddenly Emma remembered her new shoes. Where were they? Amidst all the profiling and the adrenaline, this sudden realization about her lost new shoes grounds the story right back in Emma's fragile reality. She asks the policeman where they are, and then she simply begins to cry, and she can't stop. The trauma has finally caught up with her,
prompting the nurse to step in so Mrs. Carter can get some much-needed sleep. And that brings us to the massive, lingering mystery that sets up the entirety of the remaining story. As Emma finally gets some rest in the hospital, completely oblivious to the outside world, we have to ask, what exactly is going to happen to Emma's deeply personal weekly ticket now that it's in the hands of this violent mugger? Remember, those numbers get drawn every single Saturday night. I hope this breakdown gave you a crystal clear understanding of exactly how this inciting incident unfolds, the heavy emotional weight behind the stolen item, and the incredible stakes moving forward. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the details.